You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside. Please stand by.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Conversations from the Darkside for 2025, our fifth big season. I am your co-host, Amigo Aaron, joined as always by a man who walks where no man should tread. Give it up for Rob Flack O'Hara.
Hello. Another exciting year. Glad to be here, doing it again.
It's always great to get through October, see it coming in. It's always a breath of fresh air for me to know that we're going to dip our toe in the dark pool of evil every year, and this year will be no exception. We've got a lot of fun and interesting topics lined up all through October. We should be on 4 big Fridays in October, Flack. How are you feeling this year? Are you feeling the Halloween spirit already?
You know, it's hard not to. They started putting Halloween stuff out around July. So they're
Yeah.
I mean, it's too late now. The Christmas stuff is out, but man, this is the best time of year. Like, I'm starting to see the pumpkins, I'm starting to see the skeletons, I'm starting to see the horror movies start creeping on television. I'm telling you, it's the best time of year. I love it.
Do you get burned out when you see people bring that stuff out so early? I mean, does it affect you?
You know, not the Halloween stuff. Like, what I hate is when the Halloween stuff leaves early. You know, like when they sell out of stuff mid-October. I don't like that. But I once told my wife that she could do all of her Christmas shopping for me in Halloween season. I would love to just have things from Spirit Halloween under the Christmas tree. So I don't get tired of it.
I have in the past let it get, if I start jumping in too early, like I make a limit now. I don't do anything Halloweenish until October 1st, then I let it go. So this is literally one of the first cool Halloween things I've gotten into, and so I'm very excited. Now, we're going to try something a little different this year because, you know, we only go in October on this show. And as the year goes by, tons of like unusual paranormal activity or unusual natural elements or unusual cryptid activity come into light. So we thought we would start the show off every week in October this year by having a quick look at the what's coming on, what's going on in the world of creepy news, or as I like to call it, news macabre. We're going to start off, Flack, with a little news article from Chile here. You know, it's funny. I work with a guy who has whose son married a lady from Chile, so I know the Chilean folks are sort of superstitious, and they don't laugh stuff off like you might think they would. And this first article here is a good example of that. So they have this is called "Camera Trap in Chile Detects Strange Lights Blazing Through the Wilderness, and the researchers are scrambling to explain them." So I'm going to read a few excerpt on this. On January 21, 12:22 a.m. local time, in the silence and darkness of Chile's Patagonia region, a camera trap used to monitor wildlife for a project run by the University of Magallanes captured in 2 seconds 3 photographs showing intense lights moving downward. Everyone was baffled. Now, there's a few pictures here if you're watching along with us of these unexplained lights. It's funny. What the punchline of this is, Flack, is since they've had this project running since 2023, and they've had 365,000 images and videos collected, and these are the only 3 photographs that show this phenomenon, including one such piece of footage that shows a plasmoid, or something that you also can refer to as ball lightning. And here we have these lights scrambling through the wilderness of Chile. When you see this sort of thing, and this comes up occasionally, Flack, when you see the old lights in the forest. I mean, every once in a while you'll see this sort of thing. Do you give this any credence? What do you think this sort of activity is?
Well, I'm on both sides of the fence on this one, because one, I think that area, like that's a super hot spot, like Brazil and Chile and those areas like that. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens down there that doesn't get mainstream attention. You know what I mean? So I definitely think there could be things going on there that we wouldn't know about, right?
Yeah.
Here's my problem, is that I own multiple wireless Wi-Fi cameras that shoot video in 1080p that I got on Amazon Prime for $20. Like, it's not that expensive to get good video. So why aren't these people setting up better cameras? Like, I get it that they set up this trail cam thing and that they captured, you know, these bright pictures of forest, or bright pictures of you know, light in the forest, and I'm telling you, it's weird looking. Like, when you look at them, you go, what is that? What is? But without better video, I mean, it would help their case, you know, because it could be someone with a flashlight. It could be, you know, I mean, it's hard to tell what it is. So I think they're doing themselves a disservice by not the show's not brought to you by Amazon, but you know what I mean, like just upgrade your camera just a little bit, because I would love to see
put some
it,
links
you know
down
I mean?
below. Get your
Right.
camera through Conversations From The Darkside.
Our affiliate link, that's a / Conversations From The Darkside. No, you know what I mean though, like we all have iPhones, we all have all this stuff, so I wish that it makes me want to see a better video of it.
Yeah. It's funny, if 365,000 photographs and videos, and you've got these. Now, I'm not here to poo-poo every bit of evidence that comes in. And some of these are interesting looking clips here. But I have been on plenty of ghost hunts and fooled around outdoors with plenty of cameras. And particularly depending on the type of camera you've got, you can get some weird stuff. If you've got night vision or whatever, with just bugs or headlights, anything like that. Now, experts have looked over these photos, and they can't determine their origin or what they are. So I'm going to assume these are so deep in the woods that we will never know what they were. But I do find this sort of thing fascinating, and I like the fact that in this modern time, I mean, any schlub, like you said, any schlub can just go on Amazon, get a bunch of cameras, you know, and you can put them anywhere. Now, the downside of that is you can't get away with nothing no more. But if you're a ghost, it's a real bummer. But one would assume that with all these trail cameras and all this stuff out, and with the proliferation of social media, that these things would be falling out of the woodwork. But I don't know if we're seeing a zillion of them. Have you seen an upswing in these sorts of videos captured on film type things?
No, you know, I mean, for a while there was a lot of orb videos, which like what you're talking about. I think a lot of those came out to be like artifacts, like dust and things like that. Not all of them are disproven, but some of them were. But the other problem with these photos and even videos of lights like this is that it's hard to gauge scale. So if you got a picture of a UFO, and then we can, you know, they can throw that into Photoshop or whatever they do, and they can say, okay, this is, you know, something far away and blurry, or it's really close and small. Like, they can look at the edge around the details, or they can see if it's been manipulated. But with a light like that, it has two downfalls. One, again, it's hard to judge that scale, and two, you know, it's difficult to tell what's behind the light. So it's unfortunately, this is the kind of thing we'll never know the answer for, you know. Right. But it is what it is. Hey, I do like the fact that this is happening, because I like when stuff sounds odd or unusual in these videos, and it makes you think. It gets you pondering, and that's a good thing, in my opinion. This next article, Flack, I believe this is one that you picked out. Or dug out, if it were. Military divers claim they found an underwater UFO crash site, but spent decades sworn to secrecy. You've looked this thing over, Flack. Give us the Cliff Notes version of what we got here. Well, this is first of all, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this happened off of the coast of Nova Scotia, which I think is kind of important, but it was part of a military exercise. They had taken these ships out and they had laid out practice mines. So they were, they were doing an exercise where they were looking for being able to detect mines out in the ocean. And so they got these divers, these military divers, and they went out there and they dove down, and these divers say that when they went down, they saw 2 UFOs at the bottom of the ocean. And they said, that's not supposed to be there. And so they came back up, and it said, according to the story, that these guys went back to their bunks or whatever, and that night they were all sitting around talking about it. And one of the guys that was in charge, General, he came back and he said, I think you should stop talking about that Russian submarine you saw today. Now, they all knew that they had not seen a Russian submarine, but they all read in between the lines and, interpreted that as, we're supposed to say that was a Russian submarine, and we're supposed to stop saying that we saw 2 UFOs down there. So, and of course, like a lot of military stories like that, these guys, their stories were suppressed. They were told not to talk about it. And frankly, I think if, you're in the military and the government tells you not to talk about something, it's probably a good idea not to talk about it, So, one of the things is apparently this was like right before, they said it was right before the Betty and Barney Hill case. So, but it's that era, right? It's that era where we started seeing a lot of UFO sightings. I don't know why. This is not, this shouldn't be the case. But when I hear that it's like Canadian soldiers or Canadian divers, Canadian military that are doing it, for some reason I give them more credence than if it was some guys here that were like, hey, we saw, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to think that they're making this up.
How much do we know about? I don't think I've ever occurred to me until you just said that. What do we know about the Canadians' investigations into this sort of affair? Is this something that Canada has a department for? Have you ever heard anything about the Canadian side of investigating this sort of thing?
I haven't, and I don't think they share it with us. You know what I mean?
Not anymore, that's for sure.
Right, but yeah. So it's an interesting case, like I said, and always when you hear that it comes out of the military, it's not like some hermit that's living out in the woods. That's like, hey, I saw some lights, and you go, maybe he did, maybe this isn't the most trustable source. But these guys are retired people from the military, you know, so you would think they would have a certain amount of credibility, that they would have a certain amount, and also they have a certain amount to risk to come out and talk about this. So I don't know, it's an interesting thing. The problem with it is, if this happened in the 60s, well, we're saying, it's basically 60 years ago, so we don't have anything more to go on than, just their story.
It's funny you should mention that about, trusting a military mind and person more than you would just your average schlub. When me and Tree went to the Flatwoods Monster Convention years and years ago in Charleston, and we talked to some guys that flew in Vietnam, and they would talk about seeing these UFOs and stuff, and they were 100% serious, and they were not you never know, but they did not seem like the kind of old guy that was going to yank your chain. They took a lot of stuff seriously. That was the show I went to I had a CCCP Russia hockey shirt. This guy was not happy to see me walk up. I can assure you, because he'd been fighting the commies back then, and so he was dead serious. But it was I'm kind of like you. It's the same thing with policemen. If they tend to report something, you sort of give that a little more credence. And this next thing sort of dovetails with that, because this is something I never knew that this existed. But this is the stories behind the legend, the search for Bigfoot, and the FBI file on the Sasquatch. Have you ever heard of the FBI having a Sasquatch file?
No. Normally you think of them investigating, political People that are protesting, people and things like that. But normally you don't think about the FBI as, all I can imagine is a guy. I mean, I guess we have the X-Files, right? So maybe that's where that comes from. But like a guy in a three-piece suit, with the dark glasses on and the earpiece, and he's writing a big document about Bigfoot. It doesn't seem like it matches up.
According to this article, what really got the Bigfoot movement cooking in the mid '50s was a story in a journal, in a newspaper, about a Bigfoot sighting. And so it says here, according to this article here, and just to credit these guys, this is where are we here? The AS new. This is a group where they kind of clip out various interesting articles, and they have here that says nearly 50 years ago, the FBI opened a file on Sasquatch where the agency received some hair and tissue samples from Peter Byrne and asked to be tested. This is what got them interested in doing a scientific investigation into the Bigfoot. Now, as it goes, from what I heard, when they looked at this stuff, it was from a deer, unfortunately. But
yeah.
Apparently they kept their files open on this stuff, and have never disclosed what they found or any information. It makes you wonder why what would be the point of this for a government agency. I mean, you'd think they would have definitive knowledge of whether a Bigfoot existed, and certainly, but I mean, 50 years. So that puts the timeline for this investigation up to 2008. I mean, you're the government. Let's pretend you're the head of this organization. What kind of evidence would you need to keep the ball rolling on this? Because if it was around for 50 years, one would wonder if they have information that we haven't seen.
Well, this is where my mind goes with this. If they had information to debunk it, they would release it immediately. Right? Like if anything that they had where they go, you know what, Roger Patterson, bad news. It was a guy in a suit. We found the suit. They would get that out and get that information out to the public to, so people aren't running around in the woods with guns looking for Bigfoot, right? So,
well, you got a point there. I hadn't thought about that, if I'm honest.
You know what I mean? So the fact that it's still open, that means if it's open, that means somebody's looking at it. Somebody's working on that, So some guy goes to work every day and they're like, listen, I know that there's, these terrorist plots and this bad thing, that bad thing, all these things are happening. But Joe, you're working on the Bigfoot file today. Like there's something there. There's enough there to keep somebody working on it. Yeah. So that's what I think about.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. Speaking of bonkers, this one really caught me off guard. Flack. The Loch Ness Monster resurfaces, claims this article in the Daily Mail. Boy, I will say, just before we get too deep in the woods on this one, I'd pretty much written off the Loch Ness Monster a few years ago because, when I was a kid, the Loch Ness Monster I thought was quite a possibility. The loch is dark and deep, But my God, since I was a child, they have combed, radared, lasered, and done every conceivable thing to map every inch of that loch. And so one would think that there's no chance that there's a creature there. But this magazine article, and this is only a couple days old, Flack. Again, this is from the Daily Mail. It starts out, a mystery monster as big as 3 grown men emerges from the deep in a strange and fascinating footage of the latest reported Nessie sighting. And they've actually got some footage here of the monster coming out. I mean, it's as we look at it here. Can you see that footage, Black? What do you make of that? Do you think that's Nessie coming out of the water there?
You know what? I mean, first of all, I got to go back to my statement. My same advice that I have to the people of Chile, I have to the people of Loch Ness. You should not be surprised. Like, no one goes to the Loch Ness and says, and they don't know about the Loch Ness Monster.
Right.
Like, it should be a surprise, right? So, I mean, my town, which is just a moderately sized city, has video cameras all around that are hooked up to solar panels that record 24/7 in case it's going to rain. Like that Weather Channel can immediately go to these cameras live all the time. So first of all, why is that not around Loch Ness, right? Why is there not 24-hour streams of every angle of that loch? So that's my first thing. Again, I mean, if you look at this footage in this picture right here, I mean, does that look like something you took with your iPhone?
It looks like something I took with my phone back in the early 2000s. It's horrible, but they've focused in so far. You know, they need some super high-def cameras.
Yeah, get some AI on that thing and clean that up. So, you know, I'm with you. You know, like several years ago when, what was that? The Malaysia flight, whatever it was, 370, when that thing disappeared and people said, all right, here's what we got to do. We got to check 6 million square miles of ocean or whatever, right? That's a lot of water to go through, right? Okay, Loch Ness is not that big. I mean, it's big. Like, I don't want to swim across it tomorrow, but I mean, it's not so big that we can't check it, right? Like, they've done this, you know. So, just like what you said, they've gone through the loch, they've dragged it, they've put all this stuff down there. You know, the only people that found pictures when they did all that sonar stuff turned out to be fake pictures, right? Like that wasn't real,
right?
Like the picture of the fin and the picture. There was the picture that's supposed to be the head of Nessie that I guess was a log. It turned out. So, yeah. I mean, do I want to believe that there's a dinosaur that's been swimming around for over 100 years? In Loch Ness? I'd love to think that, although every major sighting that we've ever had of Loch Ness turned out to be a fake. So it's hard to buy into it, but who knows? It's a big, creepy, dark, deep loch. So who knows what's out there?
We've got one of our live chatters in Cinefreak74 who mentions he's been to Loch Ness. It's definitely got a tangible atmosphere, regardless. So there you go, firsthand. Now I will say this article goes on to speculate that. What makes this sighting unique is that there was no other footage like it ever recorded, and they are having. It says the researchers at Loch Ness, such as they are having trouble figuring out what it is. There's speculation that it's a baby Nessie or a member of the Nessie family. According to this article, you know, hey, you never know. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. And by the way, if you're listening on the radio, you're not missing much on this one. It just literally looks like some water that is being splashed around. It's really hard to make anything out. I was always a big fan of the whole Loch Ness Monster thing, but I was convinced years ago. And so, I mean, listen, Loch Ness, how much money do these guys make every year from tourism? I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to go there.
Right.
You know, you need to have these sightings pop up every once in a while. I'm not saying somebody went out and sorry, Teresa just mentioned that Nessie's a dinosaur ghost conjured by Aleister Crowley. That's the kind of hard-hitting factual information we need in there. But I don't know. I'd like to believe this one, Flack, but I'm not gonna to hop in the car and drive to Loch Ness anytime soon. As much as I'd like to. Hey, if they get definitive proof, I'm there, brother. I can tell you that right now. We got one more.
I mean, here's the thing.
I
gotta say, I mean, there's the one part of me that, I mean, going to Loch Ness and setting up a camping chair and sitting there all day and watching that loch is a bucket list item for me. I will do that someday. I would love to do that. But on the other side, again, if you watch this footage, I mean, this past weekend, I went camping with our family. I tried to get in a kayak. I flipped it over, and it looks exactly like this footage. So it's, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. These people got to get iPhones. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
These researchers
It is funny that you would have, I mean, let me tell you something. I'm the mayor of Loch Ness, right? Let's pretend. I'm going to have suckers. I'm going to have drones. I'm going to have cameras at every point, and I'm going to have the highest definition crap I can find. And if a fish pees in Loch Ness, I want to know about it. You know what I mean? I want to record the splash. So that's just me. So it makes you wonder.
Right, but is that counterproductive to their tourism? Like, if you say, hey, we set up cameras and we didn't see anything there in 10 years, does that get people to stop going there?
Right. Well, I mean, it certainly makes people like us look at it crossways. That's for sure.
I'd go either way.
So this last news item here, this is one submitted by you, Flacker. Ghost sighting. Man records Lucknow Hotel's room tour only to spot pure horror while replaying the video. So what's the scoop on this one, Flack?
Well, this is a tourist in, I guess it's Lucknow, India, who apparently this area and this hotel is one of those places that there are ghost stories associated with it. And this guy says that he was not a believer of that. He doesn't buy into that. He didn't go there, looking for anything supernatural. And in fact, when he got to his room, he unpacked and he was showing his wife, he had recorded this video that is just a normal room. And so he takes his camera and he sweeps around the room. Now it's very difficult to see. And that's part of, the problem again with this video. But when he pans by the mirror, it looks like there's someone sitting on the bed next to him or on the other bed, but immediately he continues to pan around with the phone, and when you get to the other bed, there's nobody sitting there. So it's like it's only in the reflection. It's only in the mirrored reflection. Now, it's kind of like a herky-jerky video, which raises my radar a little bit, because if I was trying to show my wife a hotel room, I'd probably go around real slowly with the camera. I wouldn't, be like shaking it around like that, But I mean, there is something in that reflection, and it's one thing I will say is, if you set up a shot like, what's the way to say this? Like the way that this is shot, I don't think you could put CGI in this reflection. You know what I mean? The camera's moving so wildly that you wouldn't be able to get a CGI something in this reflection. So whatever's in the reflection's actually there. And it's big enough, and it's that. It's not like a camera anomaly or something. It's not like pointing it at a light or, like there's something weird in this reflection. Now, what is it? I don't know.
If you look, I'm looking at this though. If you look, see where my mouse is. If you watch it, there is a black shape here. I mean, that could be the woman. It's in the right spot. If you watch it now, and then just kind of obscured right there. Or obfuscated, but I mean, if you look real close as he goes by the stuff, there was here's a still shot. Like, what is this? Like, what is that right there? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this guy. Listen, I'm like Petzl in the live chat. He says if I got caught with a one in my hotel room on a video call with my wife, I'd say it was a ghost too. I'm buying that. I'm buying that. Did anything bizarre happen in this room? Did they mention that in the article?
No. You know what it doesn't mention? It doesn't mention that he immediately checked out of the room and
he didn't know hotel. Though. That's presumably right.
That is true. Yeah, he said he didn't until he was looking at the footage later. He didn't know about it, but. Yeah, I don't know. There's, lots of, for centuries, right? There's always been something sinister about mirrors and possibly seeing things that you don't see in the real world and stuff like that. So, yeah. I mean, is it something in there? I don't know. Yeah, but it's definitely strange.
Leroy Saint in the chat mentions that this could be a frame-by-frame edit. Listen, in 2025, where you could do literally anything, and we have AI video, anything can be done to anything. This is one of the problems in this realm of investigation, like UFOs and ghosts, and anything can be done. If you watch some AI, I did an AI video of myself and my son at the pumpkin house as we were visiting, just on the stairs, and it showed me walk off, and then it showed some bizarre crap in the background going on. It was creepy, scary stuff. It's just AI going nuts, So you never know what you're going to get. But this does look like this. Like, why would you do it? I guess unless you're just trying to get over. But I mean, why anything? Why did a guy tip a model boat over sideways in the Loch Ness? Just to get over. Right. And this is another problem in the age of social media. You've got suckers everywhere trying to get themselves over, brother, and they'll do anything to do it. Speaking of get yourself over, we hope we're doing that tonight. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back with some firsthand experiences from deep in the Bermuda Triangle. Please, stick around. This is Conversations from the Dark Side.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
It's the world's only Mothman Museum, the premier destination for Mothman fans. The Mothman Museum is the only place where you can see the largest collection of props and memorabilia from the Mothman Prophecies movie, and read rare historical documents from the Scarborough Mount Mothman eyewitnesses themselves documenting what they experienced that fateful night on November 15th, 1966. The museum is located right next to the Mothman statue on Main Street in Point Pleasant.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
And we are back. I'm real excited, Flack, for what we're prepared to talk about, because you, my friend, had a very awesome trip and did something I've always wanted to do, and that was visit the Bermuda Triangle. And not only did you visit the Bermuda Triangle, you've visited a couple times, and we're going to get to that. But the first thing we're going to talk about here is just, and I think this is apropos, especially for a couple guys like us, like, what is it about the Bermuda Triangle, Flack, that first captured your attention all those years ago when you first heard about it?
Well, just to go back just a little bit, when I was a kid, when I was in grade school, we got to go down to the library. And the library was like all the books were in a big U shape. I mean, the shelves were, and arranged by the Dewey Decimal System. And so I remember going to 000, and that's where all the books were about Bigfoot and UFOs. And the Loch Ness Monster and the Bermuda Triangle. And I thought, well, there's no need to keep going. Like, they put all the best stuff right here in the front. You don't got to go anywhere else. So, as a little kid, that's where I discovered all that stuff. There was a series of books that they had. They were like kids books, and they went through and they explained it like on a kid level. But I mean, at a kid level, even knowing that there's a place on this planet where people may, like ships and boats and flights disappear, things disappear and they're never found again. And, even to a kid, that's pretty creepy idea, so.
Is this the book?
Oh, that's the one. That is it. Yeah.
So if you're listening on the radio, what I'm holding up here, these are on loan from the Teresa's Haunted History Collection. This is the Bermuda Triangle book, and guess where this came from, everybody? Look right there. Right out of the kids' library in Guyandotte, West Virginia. And it's funny, I wanted to, since you mentioned it, I'm going to jump in here real quick because, when it comes to Bermuda Triangle, I was exactly the same way. I was a kid, a duplicity type kid in the school library, and books like this were what got me started. The Bermuda Triangle. And it's a great book. It's by Jim Collins. It's from Raintree Children's Book. So this was made for kids. This wasn't made for adults. It was made for children. And then once you move past that into Bermuda Triangle, as you get older, you've got to read this one. This really started the craze. This is the hardback of the Bermuda Triangle by Charles Berletz. This was on every nightstand and every coffee table in the whole nation. at one point. I mean, it seems like everybody had a copy of that. Then you, of course, you've also got books like this. Once that came out and was a huge hit, everything came out from Bermuda Triangle. And then, of course, if you've got a mystery like the Bermuda Triangle, some smarty pants has to come out with the Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved book, which is also a good one. Have you read a lot about the Triangle from back in the day, Flack? Is that something that you really delved into?
Yeah, it was like all those things, right? Like we all got books on UFOs, we all got books on Bigfoot, and the thing about the Bermuda Triangle is there were TV specials. There were there was that In Search of special.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like episode 4 of In Search of. Like that's a season 1. That's a big hitter, right? Like you got to go for that. But when you're talking about UFOs, people want to see footage, right? You want to see video. You want to see pictures. When you're talking about Bigfoot, same thing. They want to see pictures of the evidence. They want to see the video. But there's no video of things disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle. There's no pictures. Nobody wants to just see a picture of water. So the books are going to give you all the details. It's going to give you all those great history, things like that. Now, what I didn't realize until recently when I started looking back was how recent all these things were with the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, there have been cases, that go back almost a century, right, that are related to the Bermuda Triangle. But the term Bermuda Triangle wasn't coined until the 60s, and it wasn't popularized until that book you were showing, the 1974 book called the Bermuda Triangle. So, I mean, that's our lifetime, right? Like, yeah. So it's not like, it's not something that was called the Bermuda Triangle for hundreds of years, even though that area existed.
You mentioned, and we're watching a little clip here from In Search of. We talked this before, but between the public library, or the library at school, really, and In Search of, like, this kindled my interest in all this sort of thing. And I will say, I was convinced that anyone that would sail into the Bermuda Triangle would be violently killed. And it was either a portal, or it was Atlantis, or it was aliens. It was something, but you sure as heck didn't want to go there. And unlike yourself, I never had the inclination where I thought to myself, I got to get out to the Bermuda Triangle. That'll be cool. Like, you told me that and you mentioned on your show that you were, like, you wanted to get out there. Like, what was the draw for you?
Well, the first time I went through the Bermuda Triangle was on our honeymoon, and I didn't know I was in the Bermuda Triangle until we were there. I mean, we were literally out on the front of the ship, it was I say it's a cruise, but it was like a 4-hour cruise to take you from Florida over to the Bahamas. It's not that far away. And as we were going, they pointed out that we were in the Bermuda Triangle. And like I said, it didn't even dawn on me that's, I mean, if you're in Florida and you go kind of southeast, like, you're in the Bermuda Triangle. And I just thought it was such a neat experience, you know what I mean? And just thinking about, all the people that have potentially met untimely fates in that area, and then you're in that same area. Now, that being said, it's a pretty big area. It's kind of like saying, there were crimes, in the eastern third of the United States. And you also were in the eastern third of the United States. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a pretty big area, right? But, earlier this year, my wife and I, for our anniversary, our 30th anniversary, believe it or not, we went on a big trip. The first time to ever go over to the UK. So we flew over to the UK, we traveled around, and then we had a one-way cruise that came back from Spain that took us, the real southern route through, like, by Portugal and stuff. But we actually went to Bermuda. And so as we were in Bermuda, we had an afternoon to go walk around and see things. And as we were looking for things in that area, we saw that of all places, like, if you think about something as holy and as important as this, I mean, this is up there with Stonehenge. This is up there with, anything that would be like a historical site. The what is considered to be the official. It was at the northern point, I guess, of the Bermuda Triangle, is in the middle of a strip mall. So
were they selling tchotchkes and stuff?
It's right outside. It's right outside. In fact, in the back of Big Rob's van, I have a Bermuda Triangle sticker that I got literally at that point of the Bermuda Triangle. So I don't know that anyone ever, I don't think, like, no one got out with a compass or a ruler or a map and said, this is the point. I think if you're the first guy to say this is the point, then you get to be the point.
Right.
One of the 3 points of the Bermuda Triangle. But there is a big monument. There's like a statue thing there, and there's a marker that says this is the one of the 3 points of the Bermuda Triangle. And yes, it is literally outside the door of a souvenir shop that has lots of Bermuda items, including Bermuda Triangle type items. But it's kind of neat to see something like that,
That was. I'm sure you loaded up on goodies. Did you now, having passed through the Bermuda Triangle, and clearly you're here today? Did you have any what you would call unsettling experiences there, or feel any different? Earlier one of our chatters said that, like, you have a strange feeling when you're at Loch Ness. It's an unsettling. Mm-hmm. And I would say I've been a few places like that. I think parts of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, are like that, home of the Mothman. And I think there are sections of Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum that have an odd vibe to them. I've been in a few houses that you've got a real weird, spooky vibe. Did you pick anything up when you were in the Triangle?
I'm going to tell you an honest, 100% true story. That night, as we were traveling on the ship back through, on our way back home, there is a period of, I would say, about 4 hours where I just kind of I was sitting outside and I lost several hours. I lost 4 hours where I don't know, it's just missing, And so I told my wife, I said, we've been in the Bermuda Triangle and I've lost this period of time. I said, something's weird has happened. And she said, yeah, it's open bar night, you dummy. And so I think that might have been what I experienced on the cruise ship. No, I didn't feel anything. I mean, Bermuda, the actual area of Bermuda is so touristy. The area that we were at, I mean, we went on a little yacht tour where they took us around and showed us some shipwrecks and showed us houses of millionaires and things like that, so they weren't getting into, and they don't, I think a lot of the people there try to distance themselves from it. I mean, maybe it's kind of the opposite of Loch Ness. Maybe it's not good for tourism, to say, come to Bermuda, by the way, you might disappear. So
you could dial away.
Right. That's not a bumper sticker they sell in the store. So maybe they downplay it a little bit for that reason. But there were definitely, if you're a person who's done your research and you've read up on stuff, we were right there in it. And if you could look on that map there, I mean, we basically followed, the corner of the Bermuda Triangle all the way to Miami. So we were in the Bermuda Triangle for days, and so nothing really out of the ordinary happened, but man, did I wish it had.
I look at the timeline in the Triangle, because everyone's heard about at least one of the incidents here. There's so many listed, we can never go through them all in the time we've got allotted. But you've got, I'm looking here, so a lot of these happened in the 1800s and the early and up to World War II. And, and a little bit after, but I'm talking 1800, the USS Pickering lost with 91 people. USS Wasp in 1814 lost with 140 people. 1824, You lost sport team people in the USS Wildcat. And the beat goes on. And if you move up to more modern era stuff, of course, in 1945, July 10th, is the really one of the more famous misadventures when a fellow, along with 11 other crewmen, were lost in a U.S. Navy patrol seaplane. We've had training missions go south, very famously, allegedly. I know when you did your episode on this on Flack, you debunked a lot of this stuff. I mean, has your opinion changed at all since you got back and did the show where you talked at your visit to Bermuda Triangle?
Well, it's changed a little bit on Flight 19. And so Flight 19 is probably one of the most famous Bermuda Triangle cases. I mean, it's not because, it was the most deaths or anything, but it's just because it's a weird case. And the gist of it is there were 5 Navy planes that were flying in formation. They left, and all of a sudden, like, they got some... there's weird broadcasts where they were saying they were seeing land where they didn't think there should be land, and they were flying, and then basically those planes disappeared. Now, on my episode, there's a lot of evidence saying that this could have been natural causes, right? And so, or that there's some pretty good explanations for this. So one is that the guy that was leading the squadron, that was the head pilot, he said that there was problems with the compass on that particular plane. So he had mentioned that. He also told his commanding officer that he gets lost when he flies over water. So please don't make him lead all the planes, right? So a lot of people point to that and say, that there's probably a pretty good explanation for that. That being said, I backtracked a little bit, just thinking about it more and talking to people and reading some other stuff, because let's say that's true. Let's say the guy there's 5 soldiers, right? And one guy says, boy, I get lost in the woods. I probably shouldn't lead. And his officer says, no, you're in charge of leading. I could see the other 4 soldiers following him for a while, but not until they starved to death. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain point where you're going to say, listen, you're going the wrong way. And it's a vote of 4-1, right? Like, at some point you say, we got to turn around, And so do I think that these other 4 jets would follow him? Yes. Do I think they would do it to the point where they ran out of fuel and they were flying out? They know that they're going the wrong way over the ocean. I don't know that they would, so I don't know. I'm definitely, I waver back and forth on that one. And then of course, there's a lot of other examples, there was a big Navy ship where there's like 300 people disappeared. Like the whole thing, they're just gone.
Is that the Cyclops? The USS Cyclops? Is that that one?
Yeah, the Cyclops, and there's that other one. So yeah, there's definitely some weird cases, So I mean, when we were in Bermuda, they said basically Bermuda was established not because it's a great place to go, but as a warning to sailors, because there's so many shallow sea areas there that so many ships were getting shipwrecked that they set up Bermuda to basically warn people to stay away from there. So it's a dangerous place. Bermuda itself is a dangerous place to sail around, But that being said, also, if you look at the Bermuda Triangle, the part that's next to Bermuda is pretty small. So, I mean, that might explain things that happen right there over Bermuda, but that doesn't explain things that happen in that giant triangle, and it certainly doesn't explain things like Flight 19, airplanes and things like that. So, I don't know. It's a strange area.
I was, after I listened to your show on this, and I'd highly recommend if you are interested in the Bermuda Triangle or just Flack's Wacky Adventures, because I believe the first half of that one is I think you've got that one split in 2, don't you? Because you Flack sailed all the way back from Europe on the boat, so it's just if you want to hear wacky boat adventures, that's your show, and you don't know Flack. But you had mentioned that no more planes or accidents happen in the Bermuda Triangle than anywhere else in the ocean. It's funny when you look at a list. Like, I pulled up the wiki on this just to see a timeline of when these various accidents occurred. I mean, and there's tons and tons listed on here. And what really surprised me, Flack, was they've got listings as recently as 2015. According to the post here, 2 14-year-old boys went on a fishing trip in a 19-foot boat. Despite the 15,000 square mile nautical mile search by the Coast Guard, the boat was never found. Now, is that the Bermuda Triangle? Or is it 2 little kids in a boat that went so far out in the middle of the ocean and capsized that you'll never find? I mean, so I think sometimes they could just attribute these accidents to Bermuda Triangle, but this could have happened in any body of water. And so there's also that. I mean, the sea is rough. The sea and the weather can change in a heartbeat. And so you never know what you're going to go into. But I don't know. There's a romantic side of me that just can't let go. It's just like saying people can't let go of Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. To me, the fact that there are places on this earth that you're not supposed to go, I don't know. I like that. I don't know what it is about that. You know what I mean?
You know, they've come up with all these different things. Like for one, there was a time where they were saying they think that there are these things that are releasing methane gas bubbles from the bottom of the ocean in that area, and that the methane gas bubbles were less dense than water, and so if there were so many of them and they hit the bottom of a boat, that it would be less dense and the boat would sink. So that was an idea or a theory for a while. There was a theory that there's some sort of magnetic anomaly in that area that affects compasses. So there's a lot of theories, maybe it's a combination of all those things. Maybe it's something stranger, something that science doesn't know about yet or hasn't seen. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something. I mean, here's what I would say. Do I think that there's some magic portal in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle that whisks boats away? Probably not. Okay.
Right.
Also, if I had a boat and someone said, do you want to drive it right through the middle of the Bermuda Triangle or do you want to go around? I'd go around.
Fair enough. It's funny because just coming out just not too long ago, in fact, just in August, here's an article of all places, AOL. A scientist says he saw the Bermuda Triangle just like that. So, it's the Australian scientist Carl Cruz Zanicki thinks that he has actually saw the Bermuda Triangle. He, in fact, states there's no evidence that mysterious disappearances occur with any greater frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than any other large, well-traveled area of the ocean. And he wrote that in 2010. In 2017, he said the same thing. And then he also mentioned that the U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard contend there are no supernatural explanations for disasters at sea. That would be awesome if you could just get away with that. Gremlins did it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, also, it's real easy to say, right? Like, You can just say there's no ghosts. Well, like, can you prove there's no ghosts? Or you just say there's no ghosts, right? So you can say there's nothing to the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, well, tell it to all those people. By the way, that scientist who, the guy who wrote that article, he did his announcement in 2015. Nobody really heard it, so he did it in 2017. Yeah. Nobody really listened, and so in 2020, he planned to go make the announcement from the middle of the Bermuda Triangle and promptly disappeared. So, no, we never heard from that guy. I don't know if that's true. That's probably not true.
It's funny you should mention that because he did. I don't know. He actually announced this multiple times. That is true. I don't know if you were trying to be serious or not. That's a shoot. He did do that.
Is it?
He made a multiple. He announced it 2017, 2022, and 2023. So he did make multiple announcements. And you're right. No one seemed to care. So I don't know.
Well, sometimes the legend is bigger than the truth. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that what he's saying is the truth, but I'm just saying, you can say, just like the Loch Ness Monster, like you know, that very first picture, you know, that the earliest, the black and white, the surgeon photo, you could go, that was fake. The very first photo was fake, and you go, don't care. There's still, that doesn't prove everything else. It just proves that thing, you know.
It's funny how the article ends, because he mentions one last time that all the planes that went down, including the Flight 19, the very famous one, he points out that in every instance there was a degree of poor weather and or human error. Okay, fine. But I love how the article concludes. But culture clings to the Bermuda Triangle conspiracy theories, the concept of sea monsters, aliens, and the entirety of Atlantis dropping to the ocean floor. Those are fodder for books, television, and movies. It sure sounds more exciting than poor weather and mathematical probabilities. Anyway, even if the boring story holds more water, that's a summarization for most myths and legends that have been passed around through the decades. Because I think that's a very good ending for that one. So, I found it interesting, Flack, that you went. I'm glad you made it back. A lot of people may or may not know this. I didn't realize the extent of it until we did a little research this week. That, guess what, fans? There are several other triangles that are far more deadly than the Bermuda Triangle, and we will delve into them when we get back. This is Conversations from the Darkside.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
Just a gravel star on a mountain road. From all the tales I've been told, there's a monstrous sea soaked in sand atop a genuine 50s tourist trap. Step right up, that'll be $6. And when the tour bell rings, you gotta trust your luck. No hypertension or vertigo if you wanna dive in that mystery hole.
Shopping, dining, beautiful lakes and rivers, and a monster? Welcome to Braxton County, West Virginia. Centrally located, Braxton County, West Virginia is the ideal place to visit. Natural beauty and recreation abound with 2 beautiful lakes for easy kayaking and canoeing, and many hiking trails. Did we mention the Flatwoods Monster? That's right. Visit Braxton County, West Virginia's Flatwoods Monster Museum and not only learn about the Flatwoods Monster, but walk in the same footsteps as the people who witnessed it. Nearly all of our attractions can be found within a few miles of Interstate 79. Visit us online at braxtonwv.org. That's braxtonwv.org. Braxton County, West Virginia. Center yourself here.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, with more Conversations from the Darkside. Again, it's your good buddy, Amigo Aaron, joined by Rob Flack O'Hara. Tonight we're discussing, we're in the middle of discussing these crazy triangles. Like, what's to them? Is there anything to them? We're going to delve into a few of the lesser-known triangles. That doesn't make them any less deadly. Well, in a certain degree it does, but some of these are more deadly than others, and some of them are more realistic than others. But we sort of made it our goal to kind of see what's going on around the globe with these areas that you're not supposed to sail into, fly into, or generally mess around. Before we get into the next little tidbit, if you are listening to this after the fact, or if you're in the live chat now, please, we'd love to hear your questions or comments under the video, or you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We've got many, many ways to contact us. Do you believe in the Bermuda Triangle? Do you believe that these areas exist? Some would call them a vile vortices, as a phrase I just learned this week. I thought that's a pretty awesome one. Is it all been scientifically proven to be bunk? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Speaking of that, the first thing we're going to look at off the break here. So I tasked myself and Flack to come up with some of these different triangles. The first thing I have to say, I have to take this one, Flack. First thing I looked up was something called the Devil's Sea, also known as the Dragon's Triangle or the Devil's Triangle or the Formosa Triangle. It's got all kinds of names. Also, don't forget the Pacific Triangle or the Pacific Bermuda Triangle. It's a region of the Pacific south of Tokyo, and depending on who you ask, you will get many different versions of where the triangle it goes to and from. There are multiple accounts of what the triangle is made of. The Japanese word for the area is Mano Umi, which translates to Devil Sea, Troublesome Sea, or Dangerous Sea. And this is supposed to be an area with multiple plane wrecks and boat disasters. Just to go into a couple, on January 4th, 1955, the Japanese ship, the Shinyo Maru, it lost radio contact in the triangle, and this was a pretty big deal, because this was a pretty sturdy boat, a vessel that was out doing some surveying, and this is an actual event that did happen. This actual ship went down with all hands, unfortunately. So what's interesting is this can be explained with a phenomenon which is basically an undersea volcano, Flack. This area is riddled with active undersea volcanoes, and it is thought that when one of these volcanoes erupted, the boat was in the area and was effectively sucked into the volcano, which is... Don't ask me the science behind that one, man. So this was a pretty big deal in Japan, and so there went on to be many, many reports of missing boats and missing ships, everything from fishing boats all the way to big, huge vessels. And this was your patented shtick. Charles Berlitz also wrote about this in his book, The Bermuda Triangle. So this was also mentioned in there. He mentioned the Cairo Maru by name. It's funny because the Wiki cites a book, which actually happened in my hot little hand right here. If you can see this, if you're watching at home, if you're not, it's the Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. This is a real good read. I was flipping through it today, and I had some interest in the devil, because this is not the easiest thing to research, the Devil's Sea here. So I was looking through this, and I once again want to put Tree over, Tree's Haunted History. She's got the most expansive paranormal library probably on the East Coast. I mean, you've seen it, Flack. It's a ludicrous amount of literature over there. But this book is cited on Wiki with sort of like answering the question of the Devil's Sea, because the fellow that wrote this book, he basically did something no one else had done. He went through and researched every article that had been written about the Devil's Sea, the majority of which came out of the New York Times. And then once he read them, he noticed a sameness to them. And he traced the entirety of all these articles back to one article that was written one time in Japan, and it was like 60 years before these other two were written, and there was a 40-year gap between the two articles. So finally, he did something that no researcher had done. He called Japan. He called the government of Japan, and he sent them these articles, and they were like, yeah, this is all baloney. None of this stuff happened, and fishing boats sink in the ocean all the time because the people are poor, and they don't have, this is like fishing boats from the 1890s to present. Until recently, you didn't have a fishing boat out there that had radar or any of this other stuff. And so what you had was just when a fishing boat capsized or whatever, they put it on the list. And they didn't ever look into whether the boat actually, the people died, named to the boat. The majority of this was completely fabricated based on the very first article written about it, and it was written in sort of a jovial way. So I had to give the guy credit. He took this one to the house and really sort of pulled the rug out from under me on this one, Flack. Had you heard of the Devil's Sea?
Well, I have, because I remember as a kid reading that the Devil's Sea or the well, it's kind of confusing because the Bermuda Triangle is sometimes referred to as the Devil's Triangle, so it's you could confuse it with the Devil's Sea. But when I was a kid, I remember reading that the Devil's Sea was a triangle that geographically is exactly on the opposite side of the Earth as the Bermuda Triangle. And so then based off that, they tried to come up with some of those correlations that, you know, maybe things were disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle and they were going to some sort of weird vortex and appearing on the other side of the Earth. However, if you look at a map, it's pretty easy to determine that it's not. The opposite side, it's not.
I was going to ask about that. That doesn't seem right.
It's pretty easy to disprove, you know. So, I mean, when I was 7, I bought into it, but
I was buying it for a second there.
Right. Then I got a globe for Christmas and it ruined it. So that was, I mean, the first thing I ever remember hearing about it was that it was supposed to be on the other side of the Earth, you know. There was the Mongols, I believe, is one of the earliest things. The Mongols' invasion of Japan. We're talking about Kublai Khan here. Invaded Japan, and this is in the 1200s, and he lost ships full of people that just disappeared. That's 1200. That's 1,000 years ago. So that's a long time. But again, you know, you start getting into these weird things where you could say, you know, like the Bermuda Triangle, you go, hey man, this boat disappeared 1,000 years ago and we lost another one in July. There's got to be something going on.
Yeah.
Well, you know, ships pieces, like all these kind of things, right? But the earliest rumors that go with the Devil's Sea in Japan are all about giant like sea dragons and sea monsters and things like that would come and grab ships and pull them under stuff. Which just I don't know that it's better. I mean, I think they're both interesting, you know, legends like that I think are cool no matter where they are, but I mean, which is worse, if you're on a ship and all of a sudden a UFO starts pulling you up out of the ocean, or you're there and a dragon comes out of the sea to pull you down? Like, neither one's a good day. They're both a bad day to end in your work week.
I'll tell you another way, a really bad way to go is to have methane hydrates on the bottom of the ocean suck your ship down to boil you alive. So let's move on, Flack, to one of the things you brought to the table here. You know, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't aware of this one. You've got listed here the Michigan or Great Lakes Triangle. What's the skinny on this, Flacker?
No, this is, believe it or not, it's older than you think. I think they first started writing articles about this like in the 70s. Like it was mentioned as, you know, a different area that would be similar to the Bermuda Triangle. And it is literally a triangle that's located right over Lake Michigan. And Lake Michigan is pretty big. You may have to pull up an area, like how big is the area?
The area in question is quite monstrous. When I looked it up, I was like, that's a good size. For an inland, that's pretty big.
Yeah. The lake there's a lake not far from my house, and I think they said the average depth is 8 feet, you know, so it's not, I mean, we're not talking like that. Like, this is a massive, massive area. And, you've got it there pulled up. Cool. Yeah. So you can see where that area is. So there have been lots and lots of disappearances. There's been, and again, we're talking flights, we're talking ships. You know, it's not an area where, I mean, if you're on one side of it, if you're on the east and you have stuff that needs to go to the west, it would not be uncommon to just fly across there or take a ship across there, things like that. So you would think that even in modern times, like, you would think we would have that down by now. Right? Like we should be able to do that. But there are still today, there are modern disappearances that continue to happen in this area. So many so that obviously this legend lives on for the Michigan Triangle. Now, let's see. Do I have anything else to say about the Michigan Triangle? I don't know. What is this? I mean, what do you think about this? Do we have stuff like this in the middle of the United States? I mean, I guess here's what I would say. This is what I'd leave it at. It doesn't seem like that too large of an area to go around. Well, like, if we know where it's at, we could just go.
I don't think you get to make that choice, though, do you? I mean, you got to get it. You got to for shipping. Isn't that a big shipping lane right through there? And also, am I incorrect? You have a lot of time up in Chicago. That's where your people are from. I mean, the weather stinks, right? It's the Windy City for a reason, right? So I mean, you got that going on.
Well, so that is one of the interesting things is that due to like here in Oklahoma, we are seeing due to climate change, like we're seeing changes in tornado patterns. Areas where tornadoes used to go don't go anymore, and vice versa. Areas that weren't getting hit with tornadoes are starting to get hit with tornadoes. So we're seeing areas shift. Right, and so one of the theories about a very scientific and realistic explanation of this Michigan Triangle is that especially over the past 10 to 15 years, we're seeing changes in weather patterns, and so people that are flying over this are getting hit with crosswinds and temperatures that they weren't prepared for. So if you're in a plane and all of a sudden you have a rise in temperature or a drop in temperature or air pressure, things like that, it's going to affect your flying. Same thing for these boats that go out there and then they get hit with crosswinds or things like that they weren't expecting. You never know. So it's possible that is one of the explanations for it. But either way, it does seem to be an area where there is a high number of unexplained incidents happening.
It's funny because I was doing a little research on this, and you might have saw me holding this up earlier here. If I can find where I put the darn thing. But one of the books in Teresa's collection is cited. Here it is. I've got it right here for you listening to radio. It's called The Great Lakes Triangle by Jay Gorley. Jay Gorley, I mean, he's been around. By the way, I love this. If you look on the cover, it says, deadlier than the Bermuda Triangle. That's how deadly it is. And this was the book that sort of popularized the theory that there was something going on up there. I have read that you could extreme weather is always a problem at sea. I've also read that area tends to have what they call magnetic anomalies or abnormalities that happen there, which listen, here we go. Allegedly, these anomalies distort the magnetic field that can cause your navigation instruments to malfunction. Is this still a thing in 2025? I would wonder about that.
Here's the thing. This is what I want to say. We see these things as absolute science, right? Like the GPS on your phone or your compass, and you go, the compass points north. We know that if you have a compass, your whole life, a compass points true north. And then I remember reading an article a while back that said, hey, true north moved a little bit. Like it doesn't exactly point to where it did, right. Where it used to. And so like everything that you plan, like what if you planned a route that said go true north and you go, oh yeah, that kind of moved. like now you got to say true north in air quotes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not true north anymore. You remember when they had solar flares and they were like, hey, by the way, everybody's GPS is going to stop working for 6 hours or something,
Yeah.
So these are things like we think we are masters, like we've got all this great technology and we know how everything works. And every now and then Mother Nature throws little hook in our plans. You know what I mean? So I would say yes. Don't we think we know how to get from one side of Lake Michigan to the other? Sure. Like we think here. I mean, don't we think we mastered air travel, right? But then every now and then bad things happen, and then when we don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same thing with these ships. So in theory, I'd say yes. In theory, you say set your compass for east and put the throttle forward and take a nap, and then eventually you hit the other side. Unless you don't, and then you end up in a book.
Going through, we mentioned the magnetic anomalies. We've mentioned the extreme weather, which, listen, I promise you there's extreme weather. There's no doubt. And rough, effectively, those are seas for all intents and purposes. So people think lake. I don't think they fully get the picture. You know what I mean? You've been out there. Have you been on the lakes before?
I have, right on the, from Chicago, you go out and go on the beach, and you could just take a street and you drive out and then it just ends on the beach, and you go there, and I have been to the ocean, I've been to the beach at the ocean, and I've been to the beach at Lake Michigan, and it doesn't feel any different. Like you go to Lake Michigan, and you're like, your first thought isn't, hey, I could swim to the other side of this. That's not what you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like you're at the ocean, and you also have the waves and all that stuff coming in. You know what I mean? So it's not just like a pond.
I had the same feeling. I've been up there a few times, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like you're looking at the ocean. A third theory here that is being bandied around, and this one here, you got to love these: the paranormal and extraterrestrial theory for the Lake Michigan Triangle or the Great Lakes Triangle. I'd never heard this before, but I'm reading this article here on Echo News Flack. Listen to me, I can't stop. And they mentioned something I've never heard. And if anybody in the chat's heard about this, I'd love to hear about it. It says here, a lot of people think that UFOs or underwater, unidentified submerged objects are responsible for a lot of disappearances. And by the way, just to give you an idea of how many people, when we talk about disappearances, this is not a joke. They're saying that over the time that we've been seafaring up in the Great Lakes, you've lost somewhere in the ballpark of 6,000 vessels. I mean, that's a ton. That's a ton. Shipwrecks that were lost or wrecked in the Great Lakes, and 1,500 just in Lake Michigan. So that's a ton. But there's a paranormal and extraterrestrial theory, and it mentions that in 2007, a sonar survey revealed an underwater formation resembling Stonehenge. Have you heard anything about this? I would love to know more about that.
I've never heard about that Stonehenge thing. Now, I will say this, and this is something we didn't really talk about, and we might actually, if we have a topic that brings us near this, I'd like to talk about this more maybe on one of the other episodes. But one of the things that we've over the past 5 years, they've leaked a lot of UFO footage that was captured by military jets, right?
Yeah.
Like it's UFO footage, and it's things that has come from our government, and it says they say, we're not saying it's a UFO, we're not saying it's not a UFO, we're saying we don't know what it is, right? But some of those videos show things, unidentified flying objects, like the true definition of a UFO, flying directly into the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if like I did a belly buster one time off the low dive, that's a 4-foot thing, and it felt like you're hitting a concrete wall. It hurts, you know. And I think, like they say, you only have to like a lot of times with airplanes, if they hit the water, you think, like you and I think, oh, the plane just goes in the ocean, but they don't, because when you're going that fast, it's like hitting concrete, right? Like it's like hitting the ground.
Right.
So for objects to fly in and out at a high speed, flying into the ocean and flying out of the ocean, is something we don't understand, right? And I'm not saying supernatural. I'm not saying what I'm saying. These are things that we don't know what they are. Okay. There have been sightings of things like that around the Bermuda Triangle. Now, am I saying there's a UFO base in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle? Possibly. We don't know. I don't know what's there. We don't know what's there, but that's something weird, right? And like I said, if our government knew what those things were in that footage, if those things were birds, they would go, here's some footage, and by the way, these are birds, so everybody calm down. But they didn't say that. They said, here's things that look like airplanes or ships flying in and out of the ocean, and we don't know what they are. That's weird. Why would they tell us that they don't know what they are? I don't like that.
Just following up on this Stonehenge thing, because I had to know. I'm looking at the webpage of Dr. Mark Hawley, underwater archaeologist. This is actually quite fascinating. I'd never heard this before.
Look at that.
So he mentions that he's irritated that that the media has called it this, because it is not a megalith site. There are no rocks standing up on their side. It's nothing like Stonehenge. But he does admit that there is a grouping of rocks that is in Lake Huron, and he says that he believes, and he's been paid, he's been given a grant to figure this out. He believes this is a prehistoric drive line for herding caribou, which is quite fascinating to think about. That so at some point Lake Huron was up in the air and full of caribou, and they were using these to trap the caribou. That's a lot of assumptions there by Dr. Mark Hawley. That's something to jump into somewhere down the line because that's bonkers. But I like the idea. But I mean, in terms of did a UFO cause? I mean that's always the easy thing to say, and it sucks too because. I don't know. I'm the kind of guy, and I think maybe you are too. I would love UFOs to be real, and I would love to see one. I know for a fact that they're out there. And at the end of the day, UFOs are one of the few things I still hold on to as being a possibility. It's sad that as I got older, I don't know if I've seen too much or I've lost the wonder of young Aaron. Do you find this happening to you as you move down the line age-wise?
Well, I think technology in general is making our world smaller in a lot of ways. I mean, it's making it smaller in communication, right? Like there was a time where, I mean, when you and I were kids, we didn't know each other, but if we had and I wanted to call you, I'd have to wait until the price of the phone calls went down, and it would cost money, and I would call her if I wrote you a letter and put it in the mail, and it would take days. And now I could just text you on my phone.
Yeah.
So I mean, you and I are streaming across the country. So when you have that kind of technology, there is a part of that makes the world a little bit smaller place, right? Like we can explain a lot of things. That being said, and yes, I do agree with you that a lot of the cases that I grew up, the UFO cases that they said we'll never solve this, and then they solved it.
Yeah.
A lot of things, and so every time that happens, it takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. Every time there's a Loch Ness Monster picture or video that you grew up thinking was real and it's disproven, every time there's a UFO sighting that you grew up thinking was real and they disprove it, every one of those just takes a little bit away from the legends that we grew up with. That being said, they haven't solved them all, and I mean, our technology is so good today. I mean, you could throw a photo into a computer. Like I said, they one of the ways that they detect faked UFO footage now is they throw it in and they look at the edges, right, of the item. So like if you have a picture of a UFO and it's supposed to be 50 feet away and there's something in the picture that's 10 feet away, if you look at the edge of that would be much smoother than of the faraway object. So if it's a model that's much closer, they can now determine those things. So all that technology that we have, we haven't solved it all, And so I think in one way, yes, a lot of these things have been taken away from us. A lot of the Bigfoot stories, a lot of the UFO stories, a lot of those things have been taken away from us. But I think a lot of maybe what that was what's the term, like taking the chuff off the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like taking the cream, because maybe what we're left with are the ones that are true mysteries. Maybe the ones that are left are the ones that we threw all the technology we had at it and we don't have an answer. So now what do we do? Maybe we got rid of all the fake ones and the stuff that we have left is stuff that we can't answer.
Very well said. Very well stated, Flag. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with a couple more examples. I think these are probably more widely accepted than the ones we just talked about. We'll get more into deadly triangles when we return on Conversations from the Darkside.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
The world's largest teapot was dedicated across the border in West Virginia today, but before that could happen, a lot of other things had to occur, including a little help from our Wayne Van Dyne.
And this is the world's largest teapot, a town landmark that almost wasn't. Local citizens wanted to restore it, but it was nearly falling apart from age.
Well, I went and took a look at it. And with the rotted floor, the rotted walls, the windows out, the door off, I told them to burn it. I didn't think anybody could fix it.
Someone did. It was restored by volunteers with money donated locally. But then a dispute with state highway officials over its location almost left them with no place to put it. Governor Caperton's office finally cut the red tape, setting the stage for today's celebration, which even rain failed to stop. So it's official now, the world's largest teapot has been dedicated in Chester, West Virginia. Police Chief Terry Potts, Mayor Sally Riley, I dare you.
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle.
Wayne Van Dyne, KDKA Eyewitness News, Chester.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
And we are back for one last go-round here this week on Conversations from the Darkside. You know, so far we've talked about the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea, the Great Lakes Triangle, and we're going to get into, a couple more that are a little more, I don't know, plausible. I'm going to go down now. I'm going to say that because there's darn sure a lot of lost aircraft in these next two as we cover them. The first one we're going to get into here, everybody, is, and this, I'll be honest with you, Flack, this is a new one on me. It's the Nevada Triangle. The Nevada Triangle stretches from Reno to Las Vegas to Fresno, California, and goes over the mountains there in the desert. And the Nevada Triangle allegedly has swallowed up, well, not allegedly, factually, has swallowed up around 2,000 aircrafts over the past 60 years. That figures out to around 3 disappearances a month. One of the most famous victims was the legendary adventurer pilot Steve Fawcett. So that was not too long ago. Do you remember when that went down? That was in 2007. I absolutely remember that, Flack. And
wasn't he a rich guy, like a billionaire or something?
Yeah.
Millionaire?
And they spent a fortune trying to find him, and they didn't find him until a year later when a hiker stumbled upon his ID cards on a trail. They didn't find any mechanical issues with the aircraft, and no one's, to this day, they're 100% sure what happened to Fawcett. This guy'd been through it, too, if you haven't. Look into him if you haven't. If you look at the map we've got drawn up here on the screen, and if you listen to radio, I'll explain it to you. This is just the triangle drawn out from Fresno to Reno to Las Vegas. Now, Flack, you'll notice highlighted on the map there is that not too far from the triangle is Area 51. You've been to Area 51. What was that like?
I have. Well, first of all, I had some bucket list areas that I wanted to go explore. One of those was Area 51, and my wife and I actually drove to. You know, there was a time when we were younger, like let's say early 90s, like people had heard of Area 51, and maybe in Groom Lake, like not everybody knew that term. Like it was kind of like in UFO circles, not everybody knew all these terms. And but I found stuff online and knew essentially where we were supposed to go, and so we drove. And by the way, this is 100% true. I'm not really not pulling your leg this time, but we did go there, and there are the signs that they say, and I'm sure there's pictures of them online now, but there are signs that say no trespassing. Trespassers could be met with lethal force. And my wife and I got out of the car. Of course, this is pre-digital cameras, but we had a film camera. We were on our first road trip together, and we got out and we were taking pictures of each other in front of the sign. We just thought it was a cool sign. And as we were out there, we saw either a pickup truck or a Jeep coming over a road, and we saw them coming down our way, and the proverbial dust cloud behind them, and they were coming, and we said, time to go.
And so you hightailed it out of there.
Yeah. We turned around and went right back the way that we came, because that's when there's a lot of things that you see, where you go, well, trespassing may not be a big deal here, or I might, could do this. When you see a sign that says they might use deadly force, that's really not, or lethal force, like that's not the time to mess around. That's a time that you may not want to go there.
Now, how far away did you? I mean, could you see where they got into the car, or did you just see the car?
Oh no, you can't see anything. I mean, it's anything where anything is so far away. Now, I've read that they have different, so they probably knew we were there long before that car showed up, because and now that the location of Groom Lake and Area 51 and that stuff is so well known, I think they probably have people posted closer to the perimeter. But back then they were relying a lot on sensors around the edge, and so if one of those sensors was stripped, then they would send somebody to come out, but they didn't have people there just because it wasn't a problem back then. Like, not everybody and their brother wanted to go out and find Area 51. I tell you, one of the greatest stories, and if I've ever been rooting for people to break the law, it was that thing several years ago where everyone was going to go to Area 51, and their thing was they can't arrest us all, so people were just going to line up all the way around Area 51. Yeah, and they were going to say go, and everybody was going to take off, and they were like, some of us are going to get there, and then it turned into a big game of you first. And nobody wanted to do it. I think everybody kind of chickened out. Again, maybe they saw the same sign I did about that thing. And, I've also been to Roswell, New Mexico, which, by the way, is one of the biggest, if you've ever been to an entire town, that's a tourist trap. I mean, the Kentucky Fried Chicken there has aliens painted on the windows. The bank has aliens. There's the McDonald's drive-through has a giant mural of Ronald McDonald on a UFO, and they're all flying around like Grimace, and everybody's flying around in UFOs and rocket ships and stuff. So they've really capitalized on that. But I did go to the UFO museum while we were there in Roswell, and again, that was another bucket list. But I want to tell you real quick about the first time that I ever stepped foot in California. And if you can pull that map back up real quick of the Nevada Triangle, I went to a conference in Las Vegas, and my dad came out there. He'd never been to Las Vegas, so he came out there. He flew out to join me. And when we were there, while we were talking, we realized neither one of us had ever been to California. And so we said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hop in my truck. We're going to drive to California. We're going to drive to Exit 1. We're going to go there. We're going to snap a picture that says, welcome to California. We're going to turn around. And we're going to go back. So we drove basically through that area, like Death Valley. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of nothing out there. I mean, there were areas where we were driving a long time where there's no gas stations, there's no anything. So when I'm looking at that map of that triangle, I am telling you, I think a plane could go out there and you might not find it for a long time. I think that's a big, wide open area of nothing out there.
You got that right. And when I say big, and when you say big, we're talking 25,000 square miles. Of area. So yeah, you've got a long way to go out there. And plus, and this is cited quite often, you're flying, particularly when you're flying to California and back and forth straight across, you're going to be flying over the Sierra Nevada mountains. which are lovely mountains, but anyone that's piloted there can tell you that it's a tricky place to pilot your plane, including pop-up storms and turbulence, that sort of things. And of course, why does that happen? Is it the area? What is it? Well, there are theories, Flack. Some people think that the winds coming off the Pacific Ocean, when they go through those mountains, they produce a phenomenon known as mountain waves. Mountain waves will grab an airplane and move it up and down without them knowing. It can be real quick. They can lose altitude up to hundreds of feet very quickly. And sometimes this happens even on clear days. If you think about that, if it's a clear sky and there's no wind and all of a sudden you drop 100 foot, that could be your tail right there. So there could be something to that. Another, what I would say, far more realistic theory, Flack, it's portals, brother. It's got to be portals. So it has been theorized that there is a portal out there that causes a vortex, if you will, that causes the surrounding area to become distorted and spin that localized area in such a way that would make planes crash or make them unflyable, and that could cause the damage. It's interesting to think about. Portals get a lot of action these days. You ever thought about and I'm not talking your portal to hell type portal. I'm talking these scientific, electromagnetic portals. What do you think about that sort of thing? Is it possible?
I think it's completely possible. I mean, I think we find things all the time where, think about this. And this is a weird example, but X-rays. X-rays go through anything, right?
Yeah.
You've been to the dentist. You got an X-ray of your teeth. You've been to the doctor. You got an X-ray of your chest. But the guy that runs the X-ray, he puts on that lead little thing, and X-ray doesn't go through that. So it doesn't go through everything. It just goes through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So who's to say that things like magnetic compass, magnets go through a lot of stuff? Maybe it doesn't go through everything. Maybe there's something in the rock there. Maybe there's something in that location that maybe it bounces the magnetic, it bounces the signal off of there or something. I don't know. You said it's 25,000 square miles. Has somebody walked all 20,000 square miles with a compass to find out? Probably
unlikely.
Not. So who knows? Now I'll tell you this. I don't love flying. I don't like I like when everything go. Here's how I like to fly. I like to get on a flight and go to sleep, and then I like somebody to wake me up and say, "You're supposed to get off," and I go, "Great, we're here." For work one time, I was traveling to multiple offices to do computer work, and I flew to Denver, Colorado, and the next office I was going to was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Casper, Wyoming. And they said, there's two ways to get to Casper, Wyoming from here. One is a 4-hour car ride. And I said, that sounds okay. I said, what's the other one? And they said, the other one is a flight that's called 45 minutes of hell. He said, that's what we all call it. And they said, you fly up at a 45-degree angle over the Rockies, and you get to the top, and then you turn down and you come down at a 45-degree angle over the Rockies until you get to Casper, Wyoming, and it is 45 minutes of turbulence. They said the wind does all kinds of crazy stuff over the mountains. I mean, they don't know, and it's just like what you said. It's all clear air turbulence. It's not because of storms. It's not because of things. It's because of weird weather patterns. It's because of wind. It's because heat and cold air and coming in and moving around in different ways. Like, it's like a roller coaster every time, and every time is different, So getting out there over the, inexperienced pilots getting out over the Sierra, that area and stuff like that could be real bad news, And if you combine that with something that's, like you said, maybe something going on with, compass signals out there. Maybe they hit areas where there's, okay, so X-ray doesn't go through lead, right? Maybe there's certain like petrified rock, maybe it's things like that radio signals don't go through, or something with the GPS, or it bounces, or anything like, something out there that affects things. When you're in a plane, especially a small man plane, like a one guy or two people, you're counting on all that stuff to work to get you from point A to point B. So if one or two things don't work, you might find yourself in trouble out there.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. It's funny, when I was researching the show this week, and particularly this triangle and the next one we're going to be talking about, I thought to myself, where on earth do the most people disappear? Because when you hear 2,000 planes here, 6,000 there, and this, that, all stuff, I'm like, where are the people leaving from? Well, they're leaving from the good old US of A. We lead the world in missing people, and it's not close. And part of it's because we have a good-sized population. Part of it got a big land, but I think a big chunk of it is man has forgotten to respect the wild and to respect nature and respect the weather. We live in these sort of homogenized worlds where we don't have to go out and chop wood every day or do this sort of stuff. And I think it gives us a bit of false bravado. When you're taking your plane out and you're going to fly over these mountains, for example, you better make darn sure the weather's good. If you're just going to hike into the many areas you can go hiking and have recreational time in that triangle, you better darn sure make sure you've got enough water, a good map, and know where you're going. My buddy was just recently out in Death Valley on vacation, and he told me straight up, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's no joke. It's 8 zillion degrees, and you better darn well make sure you go where you should go and not go any further, because you'll absolutely dry up and die. And so I think that's part of the problem here. I think people just sort of forget themselves on some of these excursions, and they don't give enough credence to what man in the old times knew to pay homage to, which is Mother Nature and the elements.
Well, again, we were talking about technology, right? So, like, when we're talking about the Michigan Triangle and things like that, like, we think that we've mastered flight, right? We think that we've mastered ships. Well, then why does any of them disappear? Why would any ship disappear? Right?
It's amazing that they do now, frankly,
Right. And not just disappear with no trace. How does a plane, if we have all this technology, how does a plane disappear with no trace at all? Right? So, I mean, like if you're over the ocean, I get it. If a plane goes down in 6 miles of water, it's going to be tough to go find it, right? But how does something go down in the Sierra Mountains and we don't find it for a year or 5 years or ever? Like, how does that happen? You know what I mean? So we're really, really advanced civilization, but we're not perfect. We're not batting 1,000.
When you were out at sea, just before we move on, you were. I mean, have you ever been at sea as long as you were on that trip home from Europe? I mean, in one big swoop.
Yeah, that's probably the longest. Yeah, the longest.
Because you've been on many cruises and stuff. When you look out there at the ocean, I mean, do you ever wonder, like, if it could happen to you? I mean, can that happen to a modern cruise ship in 2025? For example, can you guys go out and get killed out at sea? I mean, how bad is the weather? Does it did it knock you around? The storms? I mean, did you have any fear at any point on any of your cruises, for that matter?
No, because I'm usually drunk. So when you go to
there you go, everybody.
There's two types of cruises. Okay, so like when you go to these, we've been on lots of cruises that go around like Cozumel and those ports in Mexico, and every cruise ship now you have a TV in your cabin, and there's a channel. There's like the GPS channel. You go to that channel and it shows a GPS signal. It shows where you are, shows where everything is. It shows a map, right? And what you'll find out is on those cruises, you're usually I think when international waters is like 3 miles away from the shore, and you're usually about 3 miles and 10 feet. I mean, so you're not driving through the ocean, right? You're pretty close to the edge. So like I have been on cruises where passengers have a medical emergency and they call a helicopter and a helicopter flies out there. So you're not so far that a helicopter can't fly out, pick somebody up and fly back, right? So those type of cruises, you feel like you're in the ocean, but if you go out at night and you look way off in the distance, you'll see the lights of another ship. And if you were over there, they'd see the lights of another ship. So you're not out in the middle of nowhere, right? Now, that being said, there's been a couple of cruises. We went to Hawaii years ago. It was to mark off the last state. We wanted to get to all 50 states. Hawaii was our 50th state, and so we took a cruise there. And to get to Hawaii, you have about 5 days on the open ocean. I mean, you're just cutting across the ocean. There's no other way to get to Hawaii. And well, they do have airplanes, but if you're on the water, there's no other way to get to Hawaii. And that's rough. That's not like being 3 miles off the coast. You're out there and real quick you realize that ocean's in charge. Like, you're on a big cruise ship, but that thing, I mean, all these people who thought they didn't get seasick all of a sudden find out they can get seasick. You get thrown around a little bit. You know, we had a couple of nights on that cruise where the water, I mean, the cruise ship was tilting enough at night where we thought we were going to roll out of our bed. I'm not kidding. Like you're sliding this way in bed and sliding that way. And we had some of the same stuff. You know, we went through the past on that cruise where we went to Portugal and all that stuff, like through, you know, past the northern tip of Africa, right? Like through the Rock of Gibraltar, like all that stuff, you know. I mean, you are out there in the ocean, and ocean waves are different than shore waves, you know what I mean? So there are times when you're out there and you think, you know, there was what do they call it? The poop cruise, that ship that had all the problems a few years ago.
Yes.
And there's a Netflix documentary if you ever want to see a lot of people angry and pooping.
I don't want to see that.
It's great. It's great for a guy that's been on a lot of cruises. It'll make you think about your next one. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But they had this redundancy where they have 6 engines on the back of that ship, and then power to all of them. There's 6 power cables, and then they all went into one power thing, and that's the thing that caught on fire. So you can have all the redundancy you want, but if you lose power to everything, that's it. Now you're a floating buffet.
That's some crappy redundancy right there, though. You got to admit,
it was not a good design.
That's like if the sketchy tech got in there and rigged it up over the night before the cruise started. That's like something I would do. You know, I wanted to mention
a lot of zip ties.
Yeah, no kid. Teresa brought up something interesting, Flack, and I don't know if you'd ever heard this before, but I know we've talked about it, me and her. People disappear off cruise ships all the time. I don't know if they fall overboard or they don't get back on at the port. Have you ever seen that happen while you've been on a cruise ship? Have you seen people disappear?
Never.
Or people being searched for?
Never. You know what? My wife on a cruise, she went on a cruise that I did not go on. It's when she and the kids went on a cruise, and they did have somebody fall overboard. And so basically what happens is once someone says man overboard, the cruise ship slows down as slow as possible and circles around and around and around until the person is, they send out the little lifeboat and stuff like that. But that being said, that requires someone on the ship to see you go over and get the word back and then get word back to the captain. And, you know, like there's but it all starts with someone seeing or hearing you go over. So if you're out there by yourself in the middle of the night and you go over, bon voyage.
How difficult is it to go over a rail on one of those ships?
Like every single person could do it?
So, I mean, I don't know. I've never been on one. I thought they might have, like, really high rails or a cage or something around the sides. They got nothing. It's just like Titanic. You can just lean over.
It's the same rails that you would see at a mall, protecting you from falling over the second floor. Like, in fact, you know, in our room, well, if you're on an outside room, you have a little balcony. And then you go out on that balcony and there is a railing and they have like plexiglass up to the railing so that you could see out there and your feet would not kick out or whatever. But there's no railing on a cruise ship that you could not lean over and fall over.
I mean,
No, that's not true because the higher up you are, you might fall over and you would just fall on a lower
on the other deck. It's funny to me because I mean I've been to ball games in big stadiums where guys have fell off over the rail or almost fallen. So I'm surprised that more people don't do that. I wonder if they keep stats of how many people per year like violently fall into the sea. And what that would probably hurt you pretty bad, even if coming off of a cruise ship, one would think.
Yeah.
And plus, those things are moving pretty quick, aren't they, as they go through the sea? So they could leave you behind in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you've got to someone would have to notify them pretty fast. You are right that I mean, if you think about how high up, even like the lower, like the decks that you could get to, usually like you start at like the 4th or 5th deck. And everything below there you can't access, so if you were to go over, you're a significant drop already, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, if you wanted to jump off a cruise ship, it would be very, very easy.
I'll keep that in mind. It's not on my short list, but you never know. If life goes kind of south, maybe I'll take a cruise. One-way trip, please. One ticket.
Yeah. Now let me tell you one other thing. You said about people disappearing like at a port or something like that. So when you book these cruises, there's a couple different things. Like let's say you go to Cozumel, which I've been to Cozumel. You could do one of a couple of things. One is you could book an excursion through the cruise company.
All right.
Which is they handle you from there to back to the ship. And based off that, they know where you are at all times, right? So you say, my excursion is we're going to go ride dune buggies for 4 hours. There's a guy that comes to the cruise ship. They take you on a bus. They take you to the dune buggies. They check you back in. They take you back to the bus. They get you on the ship. Okay. And if, let's say, the ship leaves at 5 and that bus broke down, they know where you are. That ship will wait. That ship will wait for you until 6 o'clock, until you get back there, because you were on an official excursion.
I see.
Here's the other option. You go to Cozumel and you go, we're going to go check out Mexico. We'll see you around. And they say, ship leaves at 5, be back here. And it's 5:01. You'll be off in the distance and you'll hear, oh, and that's the sound of you going to the nearest place. Hope you got your passport and buying airline tickets, trying to get back to the United States, because that thing will leave you in a second. And one of my wife's favorite pastimes is going up to one of the upper decks. If the ship's supposed to leave at 5, she'll go up there about 4:50, 4:45, 4:50, get a nice big adult beverage, and go sit up there leaning over the deck, and everybody laughs and heckles at all the people running down the long deck trying to get back to the ship before it leaves at 5 o'clock. And you will see people with souvenirs under both arms running as fast as they can trying to get back to that ship. But you could definitely get left behind if you're not paying attention.
Have you ever come close?
No,
I didn't
I'm
think
so terrified.
You can't laugh at other people and then almost do it yourself. It's a bad look.
Yeah. No, I try to be on time. I try to not to harass, the security people. The only time that I ever got remotely in trouble was a combination of two things. One was I had purchased a souvenir luchador mask, which I insisted on wearing, and number two, we had gone to a tequila tasting event, and so the combination of those two did get me in a little bit of trouble at the Port Authority area.
Did you wear the mask while you were drinking?
And was pretending to be a wrestler.
Very good.
So it was
very good.
It was a bad day.
Very good.
That is also a true story.
That could be another way people disappear. They get liquored up in a mask and they're never seen again.
Yeah.
So. That's good stuff. We got one more we're going to have a look at here, everybody. This one and that's another one, Flacker. I wasn't aware of this, but we're going to finish up tonight with a look at the Alaska Triangle. It's another place you've been, Flack. Thank God you've been all these places. You've got some kind of basis for these
and
things.
Lived to tell the tale.
It's funny, something just occurred to me. You've been to all these places except for Japan, where that one was debunked. I'm starting to think that maybe you're the cause of all these disturbances. You personally are involved in making all this stuff happen.
The last thing, all of them, they say the last thing we saw was the guy in a shirt that said "Trust no one."
And he was in a luchador mask with a bottle of tequila. So we're going to talk about the Alaska Triangle. And if you're listening on the radio, this is another monster triangle that extends from Juneau, Alaska to Anchorage to Barrow, Alaska. So you're literally talking pretty much almost as far south as you could go in Alaska to as far north as you could go in Alaska, and then over to Anchorage, which is really the biggest town in Alaska. So, by the way, this article mentions, I didn't know this, Barrow, it was not, I've heard of Barrow, Alaska. The original name of Barrow is Utqueet-Gavik. I mean, it's the most triple word score on Scrabble I've ever seen in my life.
Named by aliens, of course.
No kidding. Anyway, you're going to be surprised to learn that that area that's outlined by the triangle is densely wooded, and so you'll remember this. I mean, well, listen, you won't remember it because we're too young, but I definitely heard this tale. The Alaska Triangle gained prominence in 1972 when the U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs was in a small private aircraft and went down. And what happened after that was a massive, I saw a documentary on this once. There was a massive search for the majority leader that they used 50 civilian planes, 40 military aircraft, and scoured a search grid of 32,000 square miles. Think about that. That's bigger than a state. And they've never, ever once found Boggs, his crew, or the aircraft. So, and there are countless stories. I remember seeing another documentary of a guy who had, they make a lot of supply runs in Alaska. I mean, right along these lines. It's funny. If you're going to live in Alaska and you're a pilot, you're going to routinely go to this triangle. There's no other choice. But I remember seeing a story about a fellow who had hundreds and hundreds of hours in the air, and he also vanished. It's another one where they never found his plane. They went out with the state troopers, dogs, everything. But I mean, you're looking at a region so vast that one would wonder if you could ever find anything in it. They go on to mention that the estimate, of course, around 16,000 people, including, think about that for a minute, including air passengers, hikers, locals, and tourists, have disappeared within the Alaska Triangle since 1988.
How many?
16,000. 16,000 people. The rate per 1,000 people was more than twice the national missing persons average. I mean, that's unbelievable. 16,000 people. When you went to Alaska, I'm assuming you did not get off the boat and go into the interior of Alaska. Would I be correct in that assumption?
I got off the boat and went to Walmart in Juneau, Alaska.
You are a true adventurer, Flack.
And I went to a bar is where I went to. So, we certainly did not, go hiking off in the wilderness and stuff. We did a lot of cool stuff. We went and hiked on we went to go see a glacier. Is it Mullenhall? I never get it right, but we went, on a glacier. We went to go do stuff. I recently was talking about, a friend of mine was talking about crime statistics. We were watching a true crime show in the U.S., and I was looking up crime statistics, and Alaska, I believe, is still listed for the #1 state with the highest crime number. So, and that's both violent and property crime. So, the fact that a lot of people have disappeared in that area, I wonder, it makes me wonder if they were, unfortunately, victims of crime of some sort or whatever. I used to watch, there's a couple different shows like where they have I think there's one was like Alaska, but it was like Park Rangers or something, one of those reality type shows. And it seems like every other person they give a pilot's license to. I mean, they have to do certain things, I would think, to get a pilot license there. It should be the same as everyone else, but it just seems like every other guy's got right. The runway is just their dirt driveway, and they fly back and forth, to go get stuff. So Yeah, I mean, it is. I just had a friend who went to go visit Alaska. And he spent a few months there. He was in Anchorage, and he basically was like, I don't want to stay here. Like, he's back. He said it was a very, very, once you get out of the city, it is so remote. It's a very rough area, you know?
Yeah.
So, again, you know, looking at that map, it's just so large, and I don't know if this is a maybe, I mean, and just by saying that this is a dangerous triangle to fly over, we're not necessarily saying that, it's for supernatural reasons. I mean, but I do believe it's a dangerous area.
heavily, Flack. At least come on, that's what we're just.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, on this one, I haven't heard any. Like, have you heard anything associated with this?
Oh, yes. Allow me.
Do tell. Okay.
Allow me to enlighten you here. So, a lot of people, a lot of your paranormal experts or your experts in the field believe that in the Alaska Triangle there are energy vortexes, the old vortexes. These things screw up everything.
They're everywhere.
The old concentrated electromagnetic energy disruption. Of course, another thing, and this is something, listen, you can take this into account if you consider where Alaska is in reference to the United States and Russia and these other foreign places. There's a ton of UFO sightings in the area. It's a hot spot for UFO area things. Of course, there's plenty of Bigfoot sightings, but I don't think Bigfoot's jumping up and, unless he's got really big feet.
Yeti with slingshots up there.
The indigenous Alaskan population, some people tell stories of a demon called Kushtaka, which is interesting, and he's supposed to prey on travelers. So you've got that going for you. Another thing, now this is more in the realm of normality. Up that far north, you can have problems once again with your directions. Compasses in the area can be as wrong by as much as 30 degrees, and it's a phenomenon called a declination that will cause your misread your compass. So there's a possibility that some of this is just straight up misreading the compass or not knowing where you are. Of course, there are vast mountain ranges and wilderness and expanse out there. If you flew into the side of a mountain or flew too low or made a wrong turn around of gas, I would say you're boned.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but think about this too. Like, I mean, there are, depending on when you're flying, like, it's not like, crash landing, let's say, like we were talking about in the Sierra Mountains or somewhere like that. Like, you maybe, not only you're in a forest where it's going to be 20 degrees below zero. So unless you crash landed and you have a lot of survival gear with you, it's going to be a pretty short night. And hopefully you crashed really far away from bears.
Yeah, because they've got bears up there that will do you proper. That's for darn sure. It's funny. We mentioned that the indigenous population, I believe in the demon Kushtaka. Teresa from Teresa's Haunted History chimed in and said that Kushtaka is a shape-shifting otter man. So there you go. How would you like to run into that guy in the middle of the night? Shape-shifting otter man.
Shape-shifting otter man.
I love it.
That guy doesn't get enough. He needs better PR because that is a great thing we don't hear enough about, the shape-shifting otter man.
How does he not have a festival? Everybody travel up there to get liquored up and celebrate the otter man. Although you have to travel to get there. I guess that could be a downside of maybe.
You got to fly over this triangle to get there.
I could just see Kushtaka being angry and talking to the other cryptids and be like, "Where's my attention?" I'm like, "Listen, pal, no one can drive to your convention. You kill them all." So that's
annual meeting of the cryptids where they all get together.
So those were just some additional triangles we thought would be interesting to talk about. And I will say I learned a lot this week. And one thing I learned is you can take a triangle and you can make it out of anything. Like, you could connect like Fort Lauderdale, Houston, and Green Bay and have one massive triangle where billions of people get killed daily if you wanted to. But some of these things, the same sort of things came up in a few of these, the vortexes, the bad weather, the compass issues, the directional problems. And I think given the right environment, having compass problems and bad weather will account for a good chunk of these. But do you believe, having just looked this stuff over, what are the odds that the paranormal or an unknown force is at play in some of these, Flag?
At least 65%.
Really?
I think. I don't know. I mean, of course, paranormal reaches into the unknown, right? And so, for the ones that we find, when you find a plane that went down and they look at it and they go, "Yep, they found a problem. This guy, the rudder broke and he went down, or the wings fell off." And I don't know if that happens a lot, but
you're killing me.
But I mean, we know what the problem is, right? But
Yeah.
what about that guy that went down, the millionaire that went down in the
And he was a
Nevada
world-class
Triangle?
pilot,
Yeah, and then they found the plane, and there was nothing there. If you're a world-class pilot, why are you not on the radio telling people you got a problem? Or I don't know. There's so who knows what it seems to me. And I mean, I don't want to make this sound hokey, but it seems to me that there's so many of these things that are unexplained that it just makes you wonder. It makes your mind go in there, like, if every plane they found, we went, here's the problem. Or if every ship that disappeared in these places and then we found it and we went, oh, yep, there was a hole in the bottom of it. Like, that's what happened. Then I would go, yeah, but there's just so many of these things. Like, what about the ships that they find where the whole crew is gone? Like, what happened there? There's lots of weirdness to it. So is it 100% paranormal? Let's say no, right? But is it 0%? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a chatter pop in who mentioned, this is the Vampire's Kitten, great name, that the thievery vortex had to be caused by something. They lead to bad weather and compass issues. We've mentioned the vortexes a lot. Are you in on the vortex situation? And how do you see that? Is this a interdimensional thing? Is this a natural anomaly with the vortex? Is it aliens? Is it supernatural? Do you have a thought?
I don't know. I'm going to ask you to go first. What do you think?
What I would like to think is, I mean, I would love to be super skeptic, and it's easy because we've poo-pooed a lot of this stuff. But in my heart of hearts, I've felt things that felt off. I've been places that naturally feel odd. So why is that? Is it because of their reputation? Is it because of an atmospheric condition? Or is it because that there's some sort of energy point that is emanating from the area? I mean, I think any of those could be something to look into. So when it comes to the phenomenon of vortexes or portals, I'm sort of in with a but, and that the but is I've not seen scientific proof that they exist, but I have seen them alluded to quite a bit, and I think that given what we've seen, it's possible that, I mean, is there a vortex or an energy field that disrupts compasses? Something's disrupting them. If many people have reported them, we've had all these incidents. What is it? Even if it's just a natural phenomenon, that's something. So, I mean, anywhere you go, there's something there that we don't know what it is. And I'm not going to lie, the thought of a vortex or an energy portal, it's exciting because it's something that they haven't destroyed for me yet. And I still hold faith that it's possible.
There's an old magic trick. Uri Geller used to do a thing where Uri Geller said he was doing it with his mind, where he would take a compass and he would hold it out and the compass would spin around. Well, then the amazing Randy said, well, I could do it too. And he would do it with a magnet, right? And so he would take a compass and he would put a magnet on the bottom of it and it would get the compass to move around, So, like magnets exist, right? What even are magnets? But like I have bought magnets off of Amazon, right? By the way, if you use the if you use our code. Our
Yeah, we're
code.
missing out on the merchandising bonanza tonight.
I know. I didn't drop it. You just buy your magnets, use our code. So I mean, like, could there be something like there's a magnetic North Pole, right? So why couldn't there be something else? Why couldn't there be some other source of magnets? Like I said, like magnets are not unheard of, right?
Yeah.
So could there be something that's causing that same phenomenon? I think absolutely. That could. And it would make, when you start talking about these vortices, it would make more sense that would be stationed in one place rather than moving around, right? Like there's an area, like there's something out in the desert and it causes problems with electronics and it's there. And if you fly around it and you're just going on, based on your equipment or whatever, then you might be able to get in trouble. So yeah, I totally think that there could be something like that.
I like how Teresa summed it up. She believes in windows of high strangeness. I like that phrasing. Just a little area where there's a window of high strangeness. I'll buy it. That's a good place to call it a night, Flack. Where can people go if they want to hear more Jack Flack?
Well, hey, podcast.robohara.com has all my podcasts listed on there. Of course, they're all available on Apple, Apple Podcasts and all those things like that. But you don't know Flack and Sprite Castle and got some other things in the works. But that's, if you want to hear podcasts and stuff, go do that, or just go to actually I set up robohara.com/links. And so if you just go to that, that's got links to all my social media, my podcasts, everything all in one place right there.
Very good, Flack. And if you're watching on this channel, normally we do retro gaming action here, but every October we like to turn it around and get some talking about the paranormal and the unknown. So you're going to get 3 more episodes over the next month. We'll be back next week, probably about the same time, Flack. I think that worked out pretty well. And we will be back with another topic. If you are interested in submitting any sort of information, sightings, or stories, whatever you'd like to do, boy, we'd love to hear from anybody. The lines are dead quiet. We'd love to hear from anybody. You can call our automated voicemail at 304-397-0810. You won't talk to a human. It rings directly to Google, and you can leave a voicemail about your experience. You can also text that line. We can take text on that line. You can also email anything you want to talk about at thedarkside@email.com. It's that simple, thedarkside@email.com. We'd love to hear from anybody with any thoughts, suggestions, topic suggestions, as we just got from Cinefreak. So those are are more than happy to communicate with you without the use of a Ouija board or tarot cards, although we'll get around to that. I think that's all we got today, everybody. Thanks for the live chat, for being so spicy tonight and joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode of Conversations from the Dark Side, and until then, be seeing you.
You have just experienced Conversations from the Dark Side. Until next week, try to enjoy the daylight.